For those of you that celebrate Christmas, if you think back to when you were a kid, like when you were 4 or 5, you woke up at 4 a.m. and snuck downstairs to try to see what was under the tree or whatever, and you just couldn't sleep. That's how I was last night. And so even though a lot of us were in Boston last evening at an event commemorating the strike at the Boston Public Library, at about 3:30 this morning, I was sitting up in bed thinking, what should I do? Can I go back to sleep? And I figured out that sleep was not an option, so I got up, watched TV, watched the weather, actually was very excited that it was going to snow because it felt right. It felt like these were the conditions that working people dealt with in 1912 in Lawrence. And some of my friends emailed me and said they weren't sure they were going to come because it was snowing. And I emailed them back and said, you have to be kidding me. I actually said some expletives in there and some swear words that I won't say now with all the young people here. But I said, you have to be kidding me. You've got Polar Tech. Put it on and come to Lawrence. Workers didn't have Polar Tech in 1912 and they showed up. So when you look out the window and you see the snow, I actually thought it was really great. I did worry I was going to slide off my hill as I drove out of Lowell to get here. That would have been fitting, but obviously I didn't. I want to thank people know who you are, the people on the Centennial Committee. When you look around here and you see everything on the wall, this didn't happen magically. A lot of thought, effort went into this, a lot of passion for the strike, for commemorating the lives of the workers. But as other people have said, this is a grand opportunity in a presidential election year to use the issues that were raised in this strike to interject all of this into the presidential debate, the same way that the Occupy movement did for so many months in the last year. We have an obligation. We have an obligation to do that, but there's a Republican running for the nomination for the presidency, Newt Gingrich, who has actually proposed that we should get rid of child labor laws. Think about that. We've been talking all morning about the importance of child labor laws. He's proposed getting rid of child labor laws so children in your schools can become janitors in between classes and be involved working to keep your own school, the bathrooms clean, the lunchroom clean, and all the rest of it. This is somebody in the United States in 2012 running for president, actually standing up and saying we should get rid of child labor laws. That's unconscionable. We can't have it. The other thing that I think we have an opportunity to do in this election year is talk about economic equality, as other people have said. Inequality is severer now than at any point, as the previous speaker said, since the early 1920s when we ended up in the Great Depression. And that's a fact nobody can argue with. The strikers, when they issued their strike proclamation, said that what they were struggling for was a decent life. That's what they said, a decent life for themselves and their children. A decent life for themselves and their children. What's so wrong about that? Why does it take strikes to make that point an obvious one? Why shouldn't everybody in this room, every young person, all of us, be able to look our kids in the eye and say that we're in a society where our children's lives are going to be better than ours? Why shouldn't that be a right that everybody has? I hope that you all come back at some point and look at this space again. Look at the exhibits, read the words in English and Spanish around the room. Admire these incredible murals. They're just so beautiful. They really give power to what this whole day is about. One final comment that I want to make, and then I will finish up here. This strike is being commemorated today, right now. Actually, the commemoration started yesterday, because yesterday was today. In other places in the world, in Japan, there are commemorations of the Bread and Roses strike. In several European countries, there are now commemorations of the strike. On the West Coast, shortly after this, in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and LA, there are large events commemorating this strike. This strike, for those of you who are not so familiar with the history, had a power that resonated. There aren't any other strikes that I know of, and I teach American labor history, that are thought of at this point that are celebrated 100 years later. That's how powerful what happened right here in this building, right out there on Essex Street and on Common Street, which many of us marched up this morning. That's how powerful what happened 100 years ago today really was. And we should all be really happy that we're here, but we should also seize the moment and push this agenda that we're raising in this room today into this presidential debate. Leave no stone unturned to fight for economic justice for everyone. Thank you.